Hi, welcome back to Real Auto Reports. I'm Jonathan McGrew, and today we are with the 2013 Kia Soul. This is the Exclamation model, and this is the real video, the real review, where we go in depth on this car. So we're going to jump in the driver's seat here, take off, and tell you everything you need to know. So let's hit the road. Hi, so welcome back to Real Auto Reports. As we said, we are in the 2013 Kia Soul. Now, this isn't just any Kia Soul. This is the Exclamation model. So if you see it done in print, it'll have an italicized exclamation point. This car starts right about $19,000, closer to $20 really, because it's $19,900. As a base MSRP for this top-of-the-line Exclamation. So what does this car really have to offer from a real review perspective? Well, it is a small car. It's a car that has a lot of personality, and you can't forget the dancing hamsters. Okay, enough with the fun and games. Hamsters aside, what do we have to say about this 2013 Kia Soul? Well, the Soul was refreshed lightly in 2012, for the 2012 model, I should say. And what it added was a different front fascia, and rear fascia, actually. So what that means is below the grille, they widened it, more trapezoidal kind of design. They added LED running lights under the headlights. Also in the back, they widened the rear bumper area down below the hatch of the Kia Soul. So the whole car was just given a little bit of an uplift in its look. It's still the cool, funky car that Kia wanted it to be. And it has a lot to offer the consumer in terms of different packages and things like that. Something else we should mention that they changed for 2012 and now the 2013 model is that road noise and the whole noise inside the car was a big requirement when they did the redesign, as light as it was. And the car is a lot quieter than the original models. It's going to be a lot more pleasurable to ride and talk to people and drive. Now, you can't get away from the fact that this car, starts in the base model at $14,000, and that's your base Kia Soul, so $14,400. So you're not going to get, $60,000 noise canceling in this car, but it actually is a lot more pleasant than the original models. Let's go over some of the engine specs and performance specs on the Kia. So again, as I mentioned, you have a base model, you have a Kia Plus, and we are in the Kia Exclamation, or if you want to do the exclamation point. So what that means is that the base model has a 1.6 liter four-cylinder engine. It's actually new for 2012 and 2013, obviously. They redesigned that base engine, but it's still going to go 0 to 60 in about 8 seconds or so. Also, it's going to be 138 horsepower. So when you go up to the higher models, and in standard in the Plus and the Exclamation like we're in today, you get the 2-liter inline four-cylinder. And what that's going to gain you is 164 horsepower and a 0 to 60 time that comes down into the low 7s. So not a huge performance difference, but I think what you're going to notice is that the torque difference in the car, 0 to 60 is a weird figure. It's great if you're racing up onto the highway, but where we use most of our power in town, especially in a small compact car like the Kia Soul, is really 0 to 40. And that's really where you're going to notice the difference, I think, in the two cars. Now, in the Exclamation and in the Plus, actually, but in the Exclamation, you can get the 6-speed automatic transmission like we have here. And this does have a slap over to the left, and you can go into the manual mode, so you can press up to shift up and press down to shift down, or pull back. Now that is opposite of BMWs for anybody who's driven a BMW, but it is pretty standard across the rest of the automotive manufacturers. You can also though still get the manual transmission, and that will save you about $1,000 or so on the base price of the car if you did opt for the manual transmission. And that's pretty much across the board. The manuals are still cheaper in these Kia Souls than the 6-speed automatic transmission that we have here. Now, some things that we do want to talk about is the ride and handling. You can probably hear that as I'm driving along, there might be a little bit of rattling coming from this test car. Now, we put these press vehicles through their paces, so it might be something in the glove box rattling around. But all in all, the car is pretty quiet. It rides fairly well. Now, the thing about these Kia Souls is that I think the suspension honestly is a little outdated. What you're going to notice is over a lot of rutted or bumpy roads. Denver has some older roads that we've been driving on in town, downtown, and it kind of gets that back end kind of wallow shake thing going, that something you kind of expect from a leaf spring. And the ride gets kind of harsh when you really smack into a pothole and stuff, because this car is sprung fairly stiff. It is supposed to be a kind of party rock. Yeah, we did do the hamster reference. You know, we're going to drive fairly, fun and get around. And so it's not a squishy suspension. Now, the other thing that means is that the steering in this is electric now. So the Kia Soul has an electric steering that I'm not all that much a fan of. Now, most people probably won't be as sensitive to it. Since I drive a lot of different cars and I'm a driving enthusiast, what I notice is that the center feel of the electric steering is kind of numb. It feels kind of like there's play in it. There's not really play. It's just because there's that numbness, it kind of throws the driving in a straight line off a little bit, because you feel like you're kind of correcting. And the steering is heavier when you go into a corner. So when you start to turn, what you're going to notice is it weights up fairly significantly compared to in the center straight line motion. And that takes a little bit of getting used to, because it is a small car and you don't really expect it to have that kind of weight associated with it. But most people probably won't be as sensitive to it as I am. So, check it out, drive it, see if it bothers you or not. And if it doesn't, then you're ready to roll. Some other things that are really interesting about the Kia is all the technology that you can get in these cars now. Backup camera, the Exclamation being at the top of the line has the navigation system, which replaces the UVO powered by Microsoft system that you'll have in the lower models. So this does have that optional navigation, and it is optional in the Exclamation. It doesn't come standard, so it is an upgrade, because this car has the premium package, which will add about $2,200 to the price tag of the Exclamation model. Now, the other thing that is nice about having the navigation, though, is that you have this lovely colored screen, as do the other systems, but you have that full map and route guidance capability, which is nice. You also, in the Exclamation, get power folding mirrors, and so I'm driving along here probably freaking out the people behind me, but you get the power folding mirrors in the Exclamation, and they're heated. Now, the thing is, in the Plus, you won't get the power fold option, but you will get the heated option, which is nice. So they've really stacked the packages up well in this car. You also have a full trip computer here in the dash. It's just in that standard Kia red. So I find it pretty readable. It is smaller on the smaller side, so people who need reading glasses and such might have trouble reading it during the day when you're trying to glance up and down. But all in all, it's fairly intelligible, fairly intuitive. Big trip button here to the right, so you can actually find the features and scroll through them, including the distance till empty. You've got all your steering wheel controls, Bluetooth for your cell phone, volume control. Now, something that's really cool, I'm going to turn the stereo on here for a second. Oh, I had it on, but I'll turn it back on. And then you won't really be able to see it, but down in the lower speakers, this does have the flashing lights and that go with the beat. Now, there's something, the reason I mention this is this car is intended for a younger audience. The funny thing about the flashing lights and the speakers, it really doesn't seem to be paired to the frequencies in the music as much. It seems to be based more on volume. We've been playing with it, and when you have, say, the party rock anthem playing, and you're pretending to be the hamster, bobbing your head, if you really crank the stereo in this car, and this has the optional Infinity sound system, which is incredible, subwoofer in the back, I mean, it really will thump, if you will. And the thing about it is the higher you turn the volume, the more static the light gets on the front speakers. And that's another point. The speakers are lit in the front but not in the back, so your rear passengers don't get the fun of having the cool flashing lights. But the fact that they're really more paired to the volume is kind of interesting. The lower you turn the volume, sort of in that mid-volume range, the more active the light is. And that's just an interesting point to this car. From the outside, what you're going to get in the Exclamation model are the really cool and snazzy 18-inch wheels. On the base model, you'll get 15, and on the Plus, you'll get 16. And yeah, you've got options to change that up a little bit with your option groups. But in the Exclamation model, you're going to get the really neat 18-inch wheels, which really set this car off. It really gives it a much neater personality from the outside. And so I think those 18-inch wheels are really cool if you're going to step up to the top of the line. Something else from the inside that we'll mention that is really cool, this has the optional leather seating trim. And so you can probably see here that the upper part is this kind of what they call a sand color. So it's sand in black inside. Now, from what I read on the Kia option group, you're going to have the sand and black two-tone interior. The dash is sand with black and the door panels. And there's some nice soft touch around here. You're going to have all of that in the Exclamation model, pretty much standard. But you do have to opt up to the leather seating surfaces, so otherwise it'll be cloth. But I couldn't really figure out, and we'll have to go take a look at one without a leather option group. It looks like you'll get the two-tone interior in the cloth standard in this Kia Exclamation model, and then when you opt up to the leather, you'll get the two-tone. It's a really nice touch, gives this car a real bit of class, and it makes you feel like at $23,000, I mean, I'm not kidding. Here is the Moroni sheet on this car, $23,575, and you get all this technology: cruise control, navigation, satellite radio, heated seats, leather seating surfaces, power and heated folding mirrors, sunroof up here that is not open because it's sunny outside, and you won't see me on the camera if I open it. It is just a really well put together and packaged car, and it has a unique personality. That's really the key with the Kia Soul, is a unique personality. And I think if you're looking for something that's a little different than your average compact economy car, this car will really do it. Now, the fuel mileage has gotten better, I think, but honestly, it's still a little bit disappointing for a car this size at 23 in the city, 28 on the highway with the 2-liter and the 6-speed automatic. And then so your combined EPA fuel rating is going to be 25 miles per gallon. Now, in the Plus model, you can't get it in the upper package, and I don't think you can get it in the lower package. But in the Plus, you can get what they call an Eco Pack. Now, the Eco Pack will have start-stop technology. It'll have low roll resistance tires, and on top of that, you'll get a different battery that changes just the functionality of how the car charges and how much energy it's using, and the alternator load is what I'm guessing from all of that, from what they have on their write-ups. Now, that will gain you a mile per gallon both in town and on the freeway. And I think that's kind of interesting because that means that you'll get 24 in town and 29 out on the highway with the Eco Pack. So, but you can't have the top of the line car, which is kind of interesting in all of that. So the other thing not to get confused with that Eco Pack is that all of the Kias will have this Active Eco button. Now, what the Active Eco does, you'll see this across the Kia line, and if you're familiar with the Hyundai, and how close they are to the Kia family, you'll see it in the Hyundai line as well, to have this active eco. What it does is it changes shift points, it changes patterns in the engine management system. So you'll notice it more in other cars and less in some. This car, I actually don't notice the active eco intruding on the driving experience that much. If you really sort of mess with it, you'll see where the shift point differences are, and you'll see where that just the acceleration and computer management stuff come in. But really, it's pretty cloaked in this, if you will. It doesn't intrude on your driving experience, and it will help you get better fuel economy, because they almost never include the active eco features as part of the EPA test. So you might actually see better fuel economy than what's on the Moroni sheet and from the EPA if you're using that feature and you're driving economically. So that's the real video, the real review of the 2013 Kia Soul Exclamation. You have to exclamate when you say it, because it's an exciting vehicle and it has a lot of personality. We're kneeling on our quick stand here because we want to get up close and personal with this hamster party rock vehicle. And that really just tells you the kind of personality that Kia has developed for this vehicle. It is a great value. It is about $23,500 as tested, but you can get into a base Kia for $14,400. You can get into the base Soul Exclamation for $19,900 in the automatic. Take a couple thousand off that for $17,000 and some change for the manual transmission. And you get great features like this LED front daytime running lights, and that's where your turn signals are going to be. For 2012, they redesigned the front and rear fascia. You have navigation options, leather options, heated seats, power folding mirrors. Everything that you can imagine is packed into this little vehicle, and we think Kia's done a neat job giving it a real fun personality and a great unique look. For Real Auto Reports, I'm Jonathan McGrew, and we'll see you down the road.